First, let me ask you about the cost of living, Mr Falinski. I mean, is it really helpful to say if Jen was sitting next to him, the Prime Minister would have known?
Not really, no, Laura. That's not helpful. I think the Prime Minister, I think most Australians accept that Prime Ministers don't go and buy their own bread and milk, for a whole bunch of reasons. It's not probably a good use of their time, and there are security issues with those sorts of things. Can I say that probably every Member of Parliament since Andrew Clennell asked that question has been boning up on the price of milk and petrol and rats and bread and all sorts of different things. So ask me, I know the answer.
Okay, tell us, how expensive is your bread?
A white Wonder Loaf bread at Coles is $3.40 a loaf.
Come on, you don't really eat Wonder White, do you? You're more a fancy sourdough guy on the northern beaches, aren't you?
I must confess, I do go to Baker's Delight, and I have a weakness for spicy fruit toast. So that's about $3.30 a loaf too. So there you go.
All right, I would have picked you as a Vegemite scroll guy, but anyway, let's move on. I want to talk more seriously about these text messages yesterday. I think you're right to point out that there are ethical questions around doing it in such a way yesterday. What do you think about where we're at now? The text messages are out there, they're doing political damage. What needs to happen?
Look, Laura, I don't think they are doing political damage. I think most working Australians, people who have to actually get on with their lives in order to pay bills, get their kids to school, etc., they just see this as nonsense. I think this is the sort of stuff that really annoys them about Canberra. They want to hear about how members of Parliament, how elected officials are working hard to make their lives better and easier. What one politician said to another is pretty uninteresting to them, and I think is something that really, really annoys them. I have a separate issue, which is, whoever did this, I think has failed a pretty fundamental character test. That is not what you do to another Member of Parliament, in this case Gladys Berejiklian. That is not what you do to the Prime Minister of the country. And I think it is completely unfair and unjustified, and it says more about the person who leaked the text messages than it does about anyone else referred to.
Okay, so you're not complaining about these text messages being sent. It was a private conversation. People vent all the time, but you're complaining about the leaking of them.
Absolutely right. I mean, all of us let off steam from time to time. All of us say things in private about other people that we would be horrified if that person ever found out that we'd said that or even thought it. And a lot of the time people don't even mean it. They're in very stressful situations and they're letting off steam. For someone to use that moment of vulnerability against another person and against the subject of that person, that shows a complete failure of character. And if that person, I've said this morning and I'll say it again, I think whoever did it really should, if that comes out, I just don't think their position is viable.
Who is it? Do you know who it is? Do you suspect?
I have no idea.
Everyone's talking about it.
Yeah, I have no idea who it is. I have no idea who
Matt
it is.
Keane was out there this morning denying it was him. The finger has been pointing at him. Do you believe him?
Yes. Well, yes, I believe. I mean, if Matt Keane, I believe Matt Keane, and I don't think Matt Keane would be stupid enough to deny something if he knew it not to be the case. And I also, if it did turn out that it was him, well, he would know now that his position is completely unviable if it turned out that it was him.
I think one of the problems was that when these text messages were read out at the National Press Club yesterday, there was no context given around them as to when the journalists obtained them or when the text messages were sent. That could really change things in the colour of a story.
Look, a lot of people I've spoken to this morning about it, because I was out this morning talking to a bunch of people who are, innocently going about their job of getting on a bus to go to work. The overwhelming takeout that they had from it was, firstly, that they felt sorry for the Prime Minister as just one human being to another, that he was put in that position and he was ambushed like that. The second thing was that, they're fed up. They're fed up with these sorts of games. They want us to be working on the problems that they have, on the challenges that this nation faces, and on the future and vision of this country, not on who said what about someone's back. And I mean, as one woman said to me, really, was that the best question someone could think to ask the Prime Minister at a press conference? And it's not a bad point.
Well, one final question, because I think it's important and it's relevant. A week ago, we were talking about Grace Tame and how rude she was to the Prime Minister. Does what happened yesterday put things in context for you?
Yes, look, ultimately, nations like Australia that are based on Western democratic principles only thrive when the public square of ideas is civil. We all need to be able to disagree without being disagreeable. People can criticise Grace Tame. I'm not one of those people, but and for that matter, nor's the Prime Minister, I might add. But you think back to Kenneth Hayne when he was presenting the Royal Commission report to Josh Frydenberg, and he refused to shake Josh's hands. I mean, that sort of behaviour from someone who should know much better. In my view, that's the sort of thing that it should not be acceptable in Australian public life. And it's something that really disappoints me, I've got to say.
Now, what does it say about us and the political class when that didn't even barely get a mention when that happened to Josh Frydenberg? What does it say?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of people looked at that and they had a visceral reaction about someone treating another person like that, publicly humiliating a person like that. That is not what politics should be about. That's not what public discourse should be about. We need to be able to disagree without being disagreeable. And when Kenneth Hayne did that, I think it reflected very poorly on him.
Jason Falinski, we'll leave it there. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Laura. I really appreciate it.
The New Zealand